Hello, folks. Welcome to Holding On with Holder, where I talk to interesting people about interesting topics. My name is Steve Holder, and I am your host. My guest this evening is Janice Angela Burt, author, court certified Spanish interpreter, voiceover artist, and inspirational speaker. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is so exciting and fun. I love it.
Good. I'm glad to have you here. So I'm sure there's one or two people out there who've never heard of you. So give us a little bit about your background and tell us who you are.
Yes, definitely. So like you said, my name's Janice Burt, and most of those, actually all of those things that you just listed about interpreting and voiceover work and speaker and all of that, that all happened as of about 8 years ago. So previous to 8 years ago, I hadn't done any of those things. I was a stay-at-home mom. I'd been married for 14 years. And then as life does sometimes, there are things that we're not anticipating that happened. And so I went through a divorce. And so that was kind of my rock bottom moment where I basically had to reinvent myself, if you will, or figure out who I was, or really dig deep within myself and kind of pick up the pieces of what my expectation for my life had been and create something totally new. So that's what I did through tears and fear and, all the human emotions and things that we tend to feel. But I just wanted to create something better for myself and something different. So I started just thinking, what things do I like to do? Who am I truly? And because I had lost my voice in my marriage in the sense that I just didn't speak my mind as much. I was very codependent, very much a people pleaser. I'm actually writing a book right now. It's almost finished, about breaking or kicking the people pleasing habit, because I'm a
Sounds like a great
recovering.
book.
What's that?
Sounds like a great book.
Yeah, because I'm a recovering people pleaser and it can become an addiction. And I believe I was truly addicted to pleasing people so that I could feel good enough and so that I could feel approval and validation and feel like I was loved. So I had to kind of work through all of that.
Well, I can relate to everything you said so far. We're
Yeah.
definitely on the same page.
Well, I think it's a lot of people struggle with the not good enough feeling, at least people I've talked to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not all that uncommon.
Right. And oh, go ahead.
I read some good things about you on your website. Did you write that?
They may or may not be true. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, here's one that says, Janice is a heart-centered inspirational speaker. And I believe that. So would you like to elaborate on that, or?
I'd love to, actually, because that's kind of what I'm transitioning into right now, is public speaking, inspirational speaking, and doing it from the heart, because I had been bound by so many fears in life. And one of those fears was the fear of public speaking. And I think underlying that, it wasn't just fear of public speaking, it's fear of being judged as not good enough, and fear of not measuring up. Again, fear of not being good enough. So when I was in high school, I actually loved to talk, and I joined these speech competitions and was part of the speech and debate team. And that was all going really well until the finals. I had made it to the finals of this one competition, and there was like a $5,000 scholarship that we could win. So there's pressure on it. And Steve, I'm telling you, I knew this speech like the back of my hand. I had done it so many times, But I stood up there, and about halfway through, my mind went completely blank. I couldn't remember even my name. It was just like nothing was up here anymore. It was just gone.
Yeah.
So I lost that speech contest. And not only that, I was just deeply embarrassed. I felt like a failure. I felt like everybody was looking at me going, man, how did this happen? You knew that speech and you just bombed it. So I basically took that event, and I think a lot of people do this with certain events, like traumatic events in their lives, or what they consider to be traumatic. And I didn't speak again for 20 years publicly. I just clammed up. I let fear control me. I let fear silence me. I let fear bind me and imprison me. And I mean, it truly breaks my heart. Not only that I allowed that to happen to me, but that I know many, many other people are stuck in that same prison.
Yeah.
And, so that's why I want to speak. And I want to inspire people to walk through their fears and to, take the key that's literally in our back pocket, because we have control over it.
Yeah.
We just need some of the tools, and we need to commit to the work of it. But take that key, unlock that prison door, and step out into freedom.
Yeah.
So I want that for everybody.
You got to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. I
Yes.
definitely can relate to that. Another thing I saw on your website that I loved, it said she loves diversity and her desire is for everyone to feel loved, accepted, and a sense of belonging. I like that. I like that. Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, I think because I didn't feel that for so long, a lot of times our pain becomes our purpose. And so because I didn't feel, loved, or like a sense of belonging, and didn't feel good enough, I want everybody to feel those things and to know how amazing they are. And also part of that is I lived in Mexico City when I was a little girl for 5 years. And so I was able to experience a different culture and a different people group and a different language. And I fell in love. I mean, that's why I do Spanish interpreting and Spanish voiceovers, because I wanted to carry this part of my childhood with me and not lose it, but also just that sense of diversity of different races, different cultures, and all of us coming together, which I think right now in this time in our world is very necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, not too many people want to come together, it seems, and that's really, really sad. Everybody just wants to be right, and they want to demonize everybody that disagrees with them.
Right. And yeah, there's no forward movement
Yeah.
with that type of mentality, for sure.
Yeah. And another thing I read on your website, her passion is to encourage others to love themselves deeply so that they can create a life of fulfillment, joy, and purpose. Absolutely. I like that. I can
Yes.
see you doing that.
Yeah. And it's fine. Everybody has gifts. Everybody has these innate natural giftings. And we're meant to use them, and we're meant to be creative. We're a creative people where we can actually create something from nothing.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's mind blowing when you really think about it, and you think about technology and where we were as a people and where we are now, and possibly where we're going. I mean, it's pretty amazing. So I would love for all of us also to step into those gifts and step into our purpose, whatever it is. It's different for everybody. And that's why the fear thing is so important, because it's the fear that holds us back from actually doing that in our lives. And, we don't want to wake up on our deathbed one day and feel like, man, I didn't give this my all. Like I didn't really go for it. And it was the fear. And that also breaks my heart to think that.
That's one thing that I think you and I won't have to deal with. You know, we won't have to look back at the end and say, well, I wish I would have tried other things. Because obviously you've done a lot of putting yourself out there, taking the chances, taking the risk, be willing to make a fool out of yourselves every now and then if that's necessary to get from point A to point B.
Yes.
And that is necessary sometimes. That gave me a lot of freedom several years back when I gave myself permission to make an absolute fool out of myself by trying to become a better person. You know?
I love how you just said that. And yes, it's that perfectionism, that trap that we get caught in, that we have to look perfect or everything has to be a certain way, instead of just showing up authentically who we are.
Yeah.
And, you know, and falling on our faces sometimes and making a fool. Like, I joke about it, but it's totally true. I tend to shake when I'm speaking, but the kind of shaking that's that involuntary, you know, like when you're really cold, like freezing cold, and your body's just like, that's what happens to my body. Sometimes I'll have this reaction, and it really, I'm not gonna lie, I mean, it's super embarrassing. And like, I wish it didn't happen, but at the same hand, I'm still gonna do the speaking, and I'm still gonna stand up there, because otherwise fear will have won.
Yeah.
And I can't live my life like that. I refuse to. And so I want to do my best to, even if I have to make a fool of myself so that somebody else is given it chokes me up, but given the courage to step into freedom of being authentically who they are and messing up, but showing up and doing all that, sign me up. Like, let me make a fool of myself. I don't, at this point, I don't care.
Yeah. Who was it that said that success is making all the mistakes and then keep going anyway, or something like that?
Well, I think Michael Jordan, you remember Michael Jordan, basketball player? Yeah. He was saying something about all the shots that he has taken that have missed, or like he's been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed X amount of times. And he says, because I fail is why I succeed.
Yeah.
And it's true. He's not going to make every shot. We're not going to ace every test or look super polished in every interview or whatever. It's just showing up and being us.
Yeah. You were born in Mexico, correct?
No, so I was actually born in Sacramento, California, which is where I currently live. But my parents were actually missionaries in Mexico City. So when I was 8 years old, they took me and my older brother to Mexico City, and we didn't speak Spanish. We didn't know anybody. It was like, here's a new school. And they actually put me back a grade in school. I think I was supposed to be going into 4th grade, and they put me into 3rd grade just because I didn't speak the language. I was trying to learn math in Spanish, which is crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
You know, but it was kind of that sink or swim mentality. And you just, and you know, kids are really adaptable, which is something that's worth emulating, I think, as an adult also, to be adaptable in situations and be able to adjust to different things.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I don't know, have you been to Mexico City?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's an amazing, amazing city. I truly love it and encourage anybody who hasn't been to go and check it out. It's really amazing.
Okay, sounds good. Now tell us about your books. I know you have written a few. So how many have you written?
So I've written 2 that are my own, and then I've been a co-author in 2 other ones. And like I said, currently I'm finishing up the Peoplepleasing book. And so that should be out probably this summer or so. I don't have a certain timeline. I'm just working on it as I can.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about especially my first book is that was all just part of my healing process. And it was part of me walking through fear. And that was the fear of being seen. And I felt like I was very closed off, and that there were some things with my dad and in my family that were these kind of family secrets that had nothing to do with me. But for whatever reason, because it was my dad, I took it on my shoulders. And I think kids tend to do this sometimes with their parents or with other people, is they take almost like the responsibility of what happened, or the blame or the fault, in a weird way, even though it has nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
So I did that with my dad. And so I decided, you know, because this feels like poison in my soul, and I don't want to keep secrets, and I don't want to have a facade, I don't want to be fake anymore. I decided I'm just going to self-publish this book. I'm going to talk about things that are in my life that have to do with my dad, but that they've impacted me.
Yeah.
And also with my ex-husband and things like that. So that was very difficult because it wasn't just me. It's hard when the story has to do with other people that are close to you, but it's your story.
Yeah.
And so I sat down with both my dad and my ex-husband before I published it. And I didn't ask them, but I told them. I wanted to let them know beforehand, hey, this is, my story, and I need to get it out there into the world. And I just want to let you know that this is going to be coming out. And they both were, probably a little hurt, and just maybe not feeling so good about it. But I remember my ex-husband, he said, yeah, you need to do what you need to do. So that was very gracious of him. And my dad was kind of the same way. And so I still have relationships with both of them, to this day.
So is it an autobiography?
Yes. So
Okay.
it's just, it's poems that I had written, speeches, letters that I had written, all about my life and my story, and just expression. And I think a lot of times that's really important for people to do, maybe not in that way, like a book, but in some way to express out loud, even if it's just to a therapist or a really good friend, to actually sit down and talk about the entirety of their lives with somebody else, I think is crucial. And, not to stay stuck in the past, but to for sure not block things out on purpose and not live in denial.
Yeah. See, I understand that because I wrote and published my autobiography in 2018. And I talked about my struggles with alcoholism and depression and anxiety. So I can relate to a lot of the things you're talking about. And it definitely was a wonderful feeling. And I pissed a few people off when I did. And so, I heard about that. One of my sisters gave me up and down the road. She said, I can't believe you said those things. They're not even true. I said, well, yeah, they are.
Right. And that's the thing. Everybody has their own story. So your sister could go out and write her own autobiography with her own views of the experiences and mentality and all of that. But it's so individual that I think it's important for each person to do it for themselves, because if not, you would be writing your story for her or for somebody else. And that's where we get trapped, is trying to be certain things for other people instead of, dealing with our own internal issues and then doing right by our gut feeling, our intuition, and what we need to bring to the world.
Yeah. Nobody can tell our story like we can.
Very true. Amen.
Nobody has our perspective.
Right. And it's helpful, I think. Not everybody's going to resonate with my story, but some people will.
Yeah.
And same with yours. And so it's just cool to also know that even though it heals us and it helps us, that potentially it can help other people find their own truth and find their courage to express their truth.
Yeah. I've always heard that if you want to touch people's heart, you have to speak from the heart. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The head heart thing is, it's a fine balance and flow, I feel like that we need to find. And for some people, they tend to get very stuck in the head space, and it's hard for them to go in the heart. And then some people might be very, very, very heart oriented, but not get up in the head as much. And so there's like this beautiful flow, I think, when we can find that place of obviously using our intellect, because that's how we communicate and get our thoughts across and express all that stuff. But if it doesn't come from the heart, then there's this huge component that's missing.
Yeah. And I noticed that a lot of times the things that I was sharing, I would second guess myself, and I'd say, I ain't tell nobody that. And I think, no, I've got to do this for me. I've got to tell it like it is, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the crazy, and whatever. And it was very cathartic. I'm so glad that I did that. And I'm sure you feel the same way about yours.
Yes. And I mean, I commend you for doing that, because it is few and far between who will be that brave and courageous, especially when it's dealing with, some type of addiction or mental illness or just different things like that. But because I think so many people struggle with those things, that's why it's great when somebody's brave enough like you to actually put their story out there. So I think that's amazing that you did that.
Yeah, well, you did it too, so you're amazing. So when did you start writing?
Oh my gosh. Well, I always have loved writing. Even in school, I loved English, straight A stuff, math, like C, D, not very good at that on that side of my brain. But so I've never, I went to college, and let's see, what was my major was Spanish, and my minor was communication studies, which actually, oddly enough, matches up perfectly with what I'm doing now. And you don't find that very much. People go to college and then their degree has nothing to do with what they're actually doing, which always cracks me up. But somehow mine ended up matching. And so in college, I did all the usual English classes and things like that. But I have just loved, like you were saying, as far as it being cathartic, there's something about sitting down, and this is where it's good to turn off the headspace for a little bit until you go back to edit. Maybe then you can turn on your analytical brain again. But to be in that creative heart space when you're writing. So I remember when I was typing for some of the first book, I would sit there and I would close my eyes at my laptop, and I would just tell myself, you're not going to think, you're going to flow. Just flow with, let your fingers do the typing and your heart do the talking, and just no judgment, no criticism, no, oh my gosh, I can't say that because so-and-so is going to read it. And what are they going to say? Like all the crazy stuff that our brain does. And so that's what I would do. I would just close my eyes and just start typing. And I love that space. It's kind of a meditative space where you're really in the present moment. and
Yeah.
connected to yourself, your internal deep self, and your brain kind of shuts up for a minute.
Yeah.
So that's why I love writing. So I've written throughout the years here and there, not so much when I was raising my kids, but really after the divorce, that's when it all kind of came out. Just, the hurt and the anger and the feelings and the pain. And it was so good for me. And some of that stuff I never published, it's just in my computer and nobody's ever seen it. But it's just good for a person to write out their feelings. It's a way of processing.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to new wannabe authors?
Oh my gosh. I would say, so it's funny, I actually signed up for this new book that I wrote because I love accountability. I think it's super helpful when trying to accomplish goals. And so I saw this, write your book in 30 days challenge, which seems hilarious, but I'm like, I want to do that. And it was only, I think, $95 or something. So I was thinking, I'll pay $100 to have the motivation and the accountability to actually just sit down and write a little bit every day. So that's kind of what this guy's program is he would send an email Monday through Friday and give us our assignment. So I do really well with homework. So it was like, here's your assignment. And it was no more than writing for 2 sessions of 25 minutes each day, which when you think about that, it doesn't feel overwhelming. It's like bite-sized pieces. And, some days I would only do 1 session of 25 minutes, just 25 minutes and type and get it out. So I would say following a structure like that is helpful if you truly want to publish and get something out there so that you're held accountable. But if it's just for you, man, set your timer and just say, I know some people do this actually in the morning where they do kind of, I'm not sure what it's called, flow of thought or something, but it's basically a brain dump, but right in the morning when maybe, right after you've slept and you've dreamt and you're in that state, you get up and you just type without really thinking. You're just typing, but you don't stop for 10 minutes. That's the whole rule. You just can't stop typing. Even if you're just going blah, 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 and da, 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 whatever, it doesn't even have to make sense.
Yeah.
But the whole point is to write. And so there's different methods like that. I would say just like with anything, it's carving out the time and being intentional about it. But I think timers are helpful. There's something about that where people first of all, feel good about it because it's like something they can check off their list that they've done, but also that it's just a set time. So if 10 minutes is too much, just set it for 5 minutes and say, I'm just going to write for 5 minutes and see how that feels. Yeah. But I think it's cathartic and important for people to do that.
Now, do you read a lot?
I do read some. I want to start reading more. That's actually one of the things that's been on my mind lately was more actual reading instead of, now that YouTube has come around and like audio books and things like that. I mean, that's cool because we can work out and listen at the same time. And so it's kind of nice to be able to do 2 things at once. Yeah. But I used to read so much as a little girl, probably because there was no technology. And so that's what, we would do these road trips from Mexico, all the way up Mexico, all around the United States. And it was just me and my brother and my parents stuck in this car together. And so I would just read book after book after book. And so I loved reading when I was younger, but now I want to get back into the actual physically holding a book and reading it because it's nostalgic for me. It's fun. I like how the pages smell and the feel of it and all of that. So yeah, I definitely want to get back into that.
So what's your favorite genre?
I read a lot of self-help, especially in these last 8 or 9 years since my divorce. It's been self-help books mainly. I mean, I can't even think of the last like novel that I read. Maybe Elizabeth Gilbert's book, The Eat, Pray, Love. I read that. That was actually during the time when I was going through the divorce. And so oddly enough, it was pretty helpful and connected to me. And that was also her story. So I think that was kind of a more like an autobiography in a way, but I enjoyed that. I really like Brene Brown and her stuff. So just the self-help.
Yeah. So most authors think that reading a lot actually helps their writing. Would you agree with that?
I know it does, which is why I want to read more, because I've just noticed that I've been consumed with a lot of other things. But again, some things are just that important that you go, I need to schedule time and be ultra intentional about it. And that's why I want to be more intentional with reading, because I know for a fact it'll make me a better writer. I'll be able to, a better speaker. I mean, yeah, it's a great, and plus you gain more knowledge for speeches and for self-expression. So there's a lot of benefits to reading that
Yeah.
I want to get back to. So I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah.
But it's just like exercise, meditation, good nutrition and preparing your meals ahead of time and stuff. Everything just takes time and effort. And so I have to put certain things, at the top of my list and do this like priority thing, and then be intentional about each thing. So I fit them in and get them done.
Yeah. So do your friends and your family read your books?
I think they have. It's interesting because I don't know exactly what people's opinions are on my books, and some people probably judge it and maybe think I shouldn't have put it out there. Nobody's actually told me that to my face, so I'm not exactly sure, but nobody has come up to me really and necessarily wanted to engage in that conversation either. But this next one, which is the people pleasing one, it's more of a how-to book. So instead of it being for my healing, which is what the other ones were more about, healing myself and expressing myself, this one's a little more audience centric. So I'm focused more on how I could actually impart, hopefully, some tools and resources to people that are stuck in that people pleasing habit, like actively.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll be a little bit more of it won't make people as bristly or feel weird talking about it, and it'll be something we can discuss.
Yeah. So you working on something now also, or is that the one you're talking about now? Are you working on that, or is that your second book you're talking about?
That's the people pleasing book, the one that I'm wrapping up right now and
Okay.
going to be done with. The other thing that's really on my heart to create is kind of a one-woman show in a sense, and but also collaborate maybe with some other women or other people so that they can also create their own type of one-woman show. And by that, I mean just something that's inspirational, but also incorporates entertainment, in the sense that I think when somebody watches something or listens to something, if it's entertaining, you're kind of able to listen a little deeper, you're just more engaged. And so maybe some of the inspiring messages will hit a little deeper if there's some entertainment and some drama, some comedy, some
Yeah.
Acting scenes and maybe even a little singing, even though I don't sing very well. Whatever, just something that is a whole reflection of who I am, and then bring other people in to do their little bits. So almost like a comedy show, but for the purpose of inspiring and making people feel like they want to continue living. I mean, and tackling this life, and not only tackling it, but then like feeling victorious, like feeling freedom, um, even amidst difficult
Yeah.
situations and heartbreak and pain, which we know life consists of all of those things. So if we could embrace all of the things, the laughter, the pain, the heartache, the joy, and show up that way kind of as a team, and
Yeah.
unify ourselves. That's what I would love to do someday. So it's just a little thought in the back of my mind.
Yeah. Well, the encouragement is definitely needed in our day. You know, the world can be a really intimidating and ugly place sometimes, as you know. And last year it threw everybody a curve, and I think we're all kind of in a state of like complex PTSD or something. I mean, it just seems like the whole world's in it to me. I'm no psychologist, but it just seems that way to me.
Yeah, no, and there's been such a rise in depression, anxiety, all the things that you were talking, alcoholism. I mean, people that weren't able to go to their AA meetings, and that's really a big deal for a lot of
It's a
people.
big deal, yeah, yeah. And I feel sorry for all the kids that are in abused homes, and they can't escape to school, they're stuck. I mean, really stuck. So my heart goes out to them.
Yeah, same. Oh my gosh. See, and that's the thing, when I start thinking about all of that and all of the negative and heartbreaking things, I almost start feeling paralyzed, and just like, well, oh my gosh, what can we do? How do we
Yeah,
help? What is it? And so by me just speaking encouragement and showing up authentically and uh, living, I think, my life to the best of my ability, I'm hoping that somehow that can ripple out and affect somebody positively who's really struggling.
yeah,
Because yeah, it's hard to think about those situations, and people that we know personally that just can't get out of bed or feel so trapped by fear, and that they have to go to the hospital because they're having a panic attack and think it's a heart attack. And I mean, yeah, it's pretty heavy when you think about all of that.
yeah. Has anyone in your family or any of your friends come down with COVID?
Yes. So we just got back from Texas. Actually, I did a little family trip last week, and the kids' grandparents that live there now, they had COVID a while ago. It was months ago. And it did hit their grandpa pretty hard. Like, he never went to the hospital, but he was definitely struggling. He's
Yeah,
probably 69 or 70, right around there. So he had it and then recovered. And there's a few people like that I've known that have had it, but my immediate family, we haven't. I live with my boyfriend, and then I have my two kids, and none of us have had it yet.
yeah, good.
Yeah.
They
What
say,
about you?
yeah, my sister had it and a few of my nephews and nieces, but they recovered okay.
Good.
But it has been great talking to you. I can see you being a great motivational speaker and encourager. You are an inspiration and an overcomer. And I've enjoyed talking to you.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have enjoyed connecting and talking to you. And I watched a couple of your other interviews, and I just think you're fabulous for showing up, for stepping up, for bringing other people's stories to the light and letting us all know what's possible just by being you and doing it brilliantly. So thank you. Really have enjoyed talking to you.
Well, it has been my pleasure. So folks, be sure and keep your eye out for this lady, Janice Angela Burt. Read her books, buy 1,000,000 copies and all that good stuff. And thanks for tuning in to Holding On with Holder. Please subscribe to my channel and feel free to share this video all over social media. And Janice, thanks again. Best wishes to you, and I wish you all success.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.